Good evening, everyone. Welcome and thank you all for joining us this evening for our first Thursday's Arts Walk, presented by Riverside Public Library and Inlandia's Blacklandia event series. Tonight, we are delighted to welcome Romaine Washington, James Coates, Lydia Theon Ware, and George Hammons for a discussion on the language of healing, the poetry of hope. My name is Janine Peroy-Gamblin, and I am Programs Coordinator for Inlandia Institute, a literary and cultural arts nonprofit based in inland Southern California, the ancestral homelands of the Cahuilla, Luiseno, Serrano, and Gabrielino Tongva peoples. We respectfully acknowledge our responsibility to the original and current caretakers of this land, water, and air, and all of their ancestors and descendants, past, present, and future. Today, the Inlandia region is home to many Indigenous peoples from all over the world, and we express our gratitude to them for allowing us the opportunity to live and work in these homelands. Tonight's event is brought to you in partnership with Riverside Public Library, with thanks to the Friends of the Library, California Humanities, and the California Arts Council. And now, just a few housekeeping notes. We want you to know that closed captioning is available for this event via the CC icon on the lower part of your screen. Also, please note that this is a view-only presentation and it is being recorded. Also, we do like you to put your questions, if you should have any, into the Q&A rather than into the chat so that we can focus on them there, please. And with that, I would like to introduce the moderator for tonight's discussion, Romaine Washington. Romaine is the author of Purgatory Has an Address, published by Bamboo Dart Press, which was nominated for a Pushcart Prize. And she's also written Sirens in Her Belly. Sorry, Romaine, I lost my place on my screen there for a second. She is a fellow of the Watering Hole in South Carolina, an Inland Area Writing Project through UCR, and has served as an educator for over 20 years. For more information and upcoming events, you can visit her website, which we're also going to put in the chat for you, romainewashington.com. And with that, I turn the program over to you, Romaine, and she will take care of introducing the rest of our speakers.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janine. Welcome, everyone. It is a delight to have you share your time with us this evening, the next 60 minutes with us. Welcome to the language of healing, the poetry of hope. This evening, we will speak with or hear our speakers, starting with James Coates, who is a poet and spoken word artist who earned his master's from Cal State University, San Bernardino. He has authored 2 books of poetry, If I Had Lived, 2018, and All the Ways That You Are Wonderful, 2020. He believes that poetry has the ability to bring diverse groups together and offers a way to connect through our shared challenges, achievements, and experiences. Lydia Theon Ware founded and leads the Cartless Creative Writing Workshop for people experiencing homelessness. She is the author of Signs, a tiny gift book, DIRT, a poem, song, and awe, love letters to the Most High, a praise compilation of poetry and love letters to Jesus. George Hammons is a Southern California poet whose works has appeared in American Mustard 3, Cadence Collective, and the Pacific Review. He was featured in the photo and poetry blog Portraits of Poetry, March 2018. Hammons is the author of the chapbooks Hungry to Bed, Arroyo Seco Press, and Witness, Picture Show Press. They're both available on Amazon. And without further ado, we will go ahead and begin the evening. And our first speaker, I want to tell you a little bit about what we're going to do this evening. We have 4 ways of looking at our topic of the language of healing, the poetry of hope. And we've been given, or rather, it has been created, 4 different ways to look at this: healing from, aware of, challenged to, and hopeful for. And in my purview, it was healing from pain or whatever the source may be, aware of things that need to change, challenged to change things, and hopeful for the change that we hope to see. So now that I've laid that groundwork for you, I would like to begin our conversation with James. I've asked everybody to share either something that sparked joy for them today or evoked gratitude. And then we're going to hear two wonderful poems, and we're going to hear your thoughts on the language of healing, the poetry of hope. James Coates.
Hi, Romaine. I'm happy to be here and see the other panelists as well. Something that happened enjoyable today, brought hope. Right before this panel, I was able to work with middle school students on writing poetry. And it was my first day working with this particular middle school. And we're going to do poetry several times this month. And I'm excited because they're excited to write, and they wrote some good stuff. So that really made my day today. A quote I have is from Octavia Butler, and it is, "First, forget inspiration. Habit is more dependable. Habit will sustain you whether you're inspired or not. Habit will help you finish and polish your stories. Inspiration won't. Habit is persistence in practice." So it's a reminder to me that how important it is to have a routine that can lead to success.
Yes, yes, that's a wonderful. Octavia Butler is one of my favorites. We're going to go ahead and let you take the floor. Oh, actually, yeah, we'll go ahead and let you take the floor, and then we'll go from there. Okay.
Okay. So thinking about healing from, I think about the idea of exploitation that has persisted for a long time in the past, but that still is replicated today in a different form. And so I think about, the past, obviously the enslavement of African Americans in order to build up the power of the United States of America. And then everything that the enslaved African Americans created and produced at that time and didn't get credit for. And then I think about today, how maybe in sports or in the political arena, the community, the African American community, is still being exploited for their talents and their abilities, and even their voice and their votes, according to different people's agenda. So I think about, how do we heal from that exploitation? And so then it reminds me right now, like, what things to be aware of, and it's a reminder of how much that African Americans, Black folks, have produced in this country, and creativity, not just like billions economically, but industries and movements and genres of music and entertainment. And so I have a poem that's out of my upcoming collection, Midnight and Mad Dreams, that will be released this summer through World Stage Press. And it's titled, "We Built This." When they say go back to Africa, If you don't like it here, tell them go back to Europe if you don't like our faces. You should never have stolen us from our home in the first place. Now, this place is in our bones. We are indigenous to this soil. Our blood soaked into this ground made this place bountiful. So, no, I won't be going back home. I am home. We built this country, so this land is my land, more than it's ever been yours, fought for through multiple wars, bled and died for. So when I say we built this, I mean it, all of this, from the day we arrived all the way down to the day we've been building, and we will keep building until our children's children's children get what we are owed for the debt you have never paid. You hate when I point out the facts. Rather, we forget the past, erase the Black out of our history and its books and our skin. The Black history is American history, and it didn't start with slavery. Though we did build this country on our backs, the sweat of our brow and labor of our hands. If you don't believe me, let's talk a little history. Back in Africa, we were doing fine, building the pyramids, foundations for writing, mathematics, science, and engineering. Europeans came to get knowledge on everything from philosophy to surgery. Then in 1619, colonists knew they would never make it on their own, so they stole doctors, scientists, and elders from their homes, shipped them to America to do the building work they did not want to do. And if you look it up, you'll see it's all true. We built this economy. Half of the nation's GDP came from farming we were made to do for free. The growth of the South's power came from sun-up to sundown slavery hours, growing tobacco, rice, and indigo, but cotton is what really got things popping. We built the plantation homes, managed them, cooked and cleaned, nursed and weaned your children. It wasn't just the South, we built the North too. The roads, the docks, the shipyards, most of New York and Wall Street, plus the White House, just to name a few, only to get kicked out of our own place. We called it Seneca Village. Y'all renamed the Central Park. The Great Migration pushed us out west. We built those rail lines, miles at a time. The four major built with Black labor. We got so good at building, we settled down to build our own community. Once again, we called it Black Wall Street in Tulsa. Jealous of our movie theaters and plumbing, you killed us and burned it down, rained bombs from the sky. Just one of this country's mass genocide, all because our building damaged your pride. But our building did not stop. In us, there is no quit, not one bit. So here's a list of some of the stuff that you would not have without us. Automatic gear shift, elevator doors, blood banks, America's first clocks, clothes dryers, ironing boards, dustpan and mops, blimps, electric lamps, gas masks and furnace, thermostats, lawn sprinklers, mowers, potato chips, golf tees, suspenders, microphone and cell phone, mailbox, wrench, modern locks, home security systems, toilets, traffic lights, plus many, many more items we did help invent but didn't get credit for. Fast forward to modern times, we're still building culture and trends. We created jazz, blues, soul, and pop. We invented hip hop, rap, and rock. And guess what? They've all been co-opted. So next time we say we built this and you want to try and dispute it, these are straight facts. And I can show you the receipts to prove it. So yeah. So that leads to the the challenge of right now is how do we look towards educating the future generation on the history of everything that was built that isn't being told to them in school or shown in the media, and how they're going to be instrumental in pushing all these things forward. And so a lot of that has to do with community building, has to do with ownership, creating their own businesses, creating their own organizations to push us forward. And so that's what I'm hopeful for, that the next generation, we can inspire to see the world differently and to change things for the better. And so I have my last poem. It's not nearly as long as the other one. It's titled Planting. What does hope look like in a doomed tree? Nothing if not a seedling, a piece of potential to grow. Naked, green, and unsure, drenched in stormy rains, cast amongst unfertile mulch. Nevertheless, roots dig deep. Some would see you perish, and yet you are right here, reaching beyond the shadows for your place in the light. A miracle made witness as each new dawn is a prayer answered. So yeah, that's what I had on my mind and my heart.
Thank you so much. I like the journey that you took us on. It was just a 10-minute journey, but you went deep. You took us to from injustice to how we flipped it around and all of the wonderful things that we've created and then pushed it forward. Thank you so much for your words. I look forward to your book, your upcoming book. And is there a place where people can follow you? I know you have a workshop. Do you want to tell a little bit about that workshop before we go on to the next presenter?
Sure. So people can follow me on Facebook, my name, James Coates, and Instagram at Mr. Loving Words, Mr. spelled MR, Loving Words. And you can get updated on projects, and it's going to be really busy this month. I'll be on a radio show on Sunday. So you can find all that information on my Instagram. And then I do host a award-winning workshop every first Wednesday of the month at 6 o'clock called Be the Change. And it is a social justice writing workshop. Don't let that part scare you. We really write about topics current in the world. And so everyone's invited to attend that.
Thank you. I went to your workshop the other night and it was really a wonderful experience. There was no tension, but it was a way to talk about things that we normally don't get a chance to talk about. And I'd recommend it to anybody to come on out and listen. And now all you have to do is just plug in and listen. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And now we will move to our second speaker, Lydia. And I introduced Lydia already. So Lydia, whenever you're ready to share, we're ready to listen.
Okay. Hello, Romaine. Hello, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this. I'm grateful. Thought of healing from, I was going to do healing from loneliness, but then I thought I was thinking of healing from 2020 and 2021. And so there was a perspective that I had. It was a Twitter note that I gave to Twitter, and I don't tweet. So it was like my second or third tweet. And it was, I'll just read it. When I was in 2021, after a year of watching the violence against Blackness unfold, and then there was this idea of NFTs, which is a brand new thing, non-fungible tokens. And I thought, this is my tweet. Can a Black person, man or boy, woman or girl, be an NFT? Then their life would be unique and non-fungible and worth millions. And then the video murders would be the best trading cards. How about it, America? Let's monetize the pain. Art will prevail. And I wrote that in April of 2021. And now in February of 2022, I say, can a non-fungible token be a youth pastor's sermon, rescuing those who have nothing to look forward to? Can our spoken words be placed in the metaverse so we can stop the spiral and uplift the young and old alike? And I thought that I am an individual that is grateful. I'm grateful for the storytellers, the griots, the soothing voices that chronicle our sorrow. ancestors. I'm grateful for them, for the blood that was shed before we came, the wool that closes our pain. I'm grateful for Black privilege and for the dreams of what we as an America aspire to be. And I feel like America has this dream that it's not a fever dream, it's not a nightmare, it's an aspiration to go for, but it's been twisted and it's been broken and it's been assaulted. And I think that we as individuals all have to realize that that dream is not going to become a reality until we can talk to each other, until we can listen to each other and understand each other. And I'm so grateful that I have my ability to be a spoken word artist, a poet, so that I can speak things that cannot be said, things that cannot be given or understood or accepted. But if you put it in a poem, it can be. It can be swallowed in small, tiny, tiny little spoonfuls. So what sparks joy in me is the Lord, Jesus. He's my joy today and always. I know that over the past 2 years, there's been a listing of all the people that have been killed, murdered. There's, I don't want to name them all because I would forget the ones that I really want to remember, but their names have been listed. And I just wanted to do a list as a poem. 18 names of Black folk who make me pause and say, whoa. And if you don't know these individuals, look them up and you'll say, whoa too. Amber Ruffin, Roland S. Martin, Dr. Claude Anderson, Leonard Larry McKelvey, Roy Wood Jr., Maya Angelou, Dulce Sloan, Kimberly Williams Crenshaw, Kimberly Jones, 2020. How can we win? Toni Morrison, Wall Street Trapper. Maybe 18 names is not enough or too many. These are the names of 2020, 2021, 2022. They are influencers who are boldly a narrative that carves out a cave out of the mountain of self-hatred. They are leaders and they are controversial because they are intelligent and Black and they are alive. Trevor Noah, Stacey Abrams, Kevin Hart, Issa Rae, T.D. Jakes, Michael Todd. A list of Black names not tied to death, a list of Black excellence, awareness of Blackness, awareness of beauty and grace and intelligence, awareness of 18 Black folk who make me pause and go, whoa. So I've just been amazed by the things that I have watched on YouTube for the past 2 years as I've gone back to work and stayed in work because I'm like an essential employee as a peer support specialist. And I was just overwhelmed by all the people that have passed, like 2,000 a day, 3,000 a day, 500,000, 800,000. And I'm wondering, what are their names? What are their stories? Who are their families? I want to know all of their names. I wanted to write a poem with everybody, I wanted to do an acrostic, a name poem for everybody, like 800,000 people that have passed. And that would take me a lifetime to do. First name and last initial, but they deserve it. They're gone. They lived and they died alone behind a ventilator and a mask and bad oxygen. And I just want to know their names of all the people. So maybe if we put names of people, if we list and define and give and honor those that are lost, those that are still alive, I think that we could have a conversation. Hopeful, what I am hopeful for are times, and dreams. This is a very short poem. It's not finished yet. It's the beginning of a bop. But a bop poem is a poem form created by AFA, Michael Weaver. And he creates a solution from 23 lines to solve life in 23 lines, to solve the soul in verse. To write is to win the war. To weave a story is to raise a question, to raise a generation. I am a poet, which means I am alive and I am powerful. What 23 lines can I write to express my gratitude for my life? He is my shield, Jesus. He is my compass. I am his and he is in me. My heart is open to him. He is the finisher and my author. Yeshua, oh Lord, thank you. My refrain, my soul dreams of me in joy. That's as far as I got for that one. But I didn't have a chance to really express the joy that I have for being alive, being just open to learning new things, creating new words, creating new dreams, new ideas. There are 18 people that I named that are alive, who are intelligent, who have challenging ideas from critical race theory to power economics to being financially well endowed in the financial market, Wall Street trapper. So these people, these African American individuals who are alive, who are not on a list of dead and dying, or a list of murdered, or a list of kidnapped, or a list of trafficked. They're intelligent, they're alive, they're, except for Maya Angelou, of course, and but they are amazing, and they need to be acknowledged and remembered and researched.
Yes.
I feel that on the back of my book, All Love Letters to the Most High, there's a quote. I end with the Lord, of course. But let all who take refuge in you rejoice. Let them sing joyful praises forever. Spread your protection over them, that all who love your name may be filled with joy. For you bless the godly, O Lord. You surround them with your shield of love.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for the challenge where we can celebrate and uplift those not in the past, but those living around us now. Thank you for those 18 names and for the shift of vision. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Lydia. And from Lydia, we will now give the floor to George Hammons. George, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
You hear me?
Yep, hear you well.
Okay, I'm gonna try to make this work. You told me that you wanted for me to reflect on my joy from today. And really the past couple of days, one of the things that I can reflect on is that I had the opportunity to kind of reach out to a lot of people who I have not had communications with in a while and advise them of this event that was happening. And I had an interesting text back and forth with somebody who's now working at a library. And I was like, oh, when I was in high school, I worked for a couple of years at a library. And it was the best job I ever had. And what it did was it exposed me. It was a library in South Central Los Angeles, Graham Library. And it exposed me to a lot of Black poetry because, the books that were there were, very heavily for the Black community. So I got to read, Langston Hughes and Gwendolyn Brooks, while putting the books back on the shelf. All of a sudden I came in contact with these people. Now I was already writing poetry then, but what it did was it gave me a confidence, or it gave me the idea that it wasn't silly for me to be writing poetry. And I came across a book by Gil Scott-Heron, and it really encouraged me because, he wasn't from that other generation so much. He was more so from my generation. The second poem I'm going to read for you today is dedicated to him, but I just wanted to kind of throw that in. And as far as kind of like the points that you gave us to touch on in terms of healing from, awareness of, the challenge to, and what are we hopeful for? I'm going to try and return to those. I want to read what I'm going to read, and then I want to go back to those. So I want to do it in a little bit of a different order. And I am going to read a poem that you asked me to read. So the poem that I'm going to read is from my book, Witness, and it's called And Something for the Ants. I passed a dead hummingbird lying right in the middle of a busy walkway. I was a step past it when I realized that it wasn't a leaf. I went back and looked down. I realized I had never seen a dead hummingbird before. I've seen them darting here and there, drawing nectar. I've seen their little nest with tiny eggs. I've seen them light for a moment upon a branch or just hover inquisitively in front of me in midair, all shiny and sprite-like. But I'd never seen one dead. It was momentarily startling, like stumbling upon a dead unicorn, its beak open as if to speak, its one exposed eye a tiny dark pit, like a miniature black hole, suddenly centering my universe. Its gravity unavoidable, pulled me into a sorrow where suddenly everyone whom I'd ever lost stared out at me as if daring me to appreciate the idea of this single hummingbird's importance. Its bright feathers blunted, as death is wont to do, in taking the sheen from living things. And suddenly, this is so real, all of the magic that was once a hummingbird is gone, and in its place, a tiny trampled shell. My neighbor's chubby yellow cat lies 20 feet away, grooming himself, unconcerned, feigning nonchalance. And even though I have no evidence, I suspect him. But what cunning, what magic could he conjure up that he could kill a hummingbird? Unsure what else to do, I walk on. But it gets to me. The bird dead there in the walkway, its beak open as if to speak, its tiny eye a dark universe pulling at me, its dull feathers and the heartbreak of it all. I go back with the baggie. I scoop it up, surprised at the heft for such a little thing. I take it to the hedge wall and lay it there where it is quiet and cool and something for the ants. Okay. Oh, thank you. I don't write a lot about nature, and that was an attempt to write about nature, but I do think that even when we write about nature, it's never really just about that. It's always about all of those other things. And as a writer, I think that that's to kind of tie this in to what I feel like the challenge for us as writers to do is to write things that relate to people. I guess really what I'm trying to say is I think that as writers, we're challenged to use our platform for whatever it is that is important to us that we feel like we are gifted to pass on to other people. And so I think that, it's like, we're trying to perhaps encourage empathy or perhaps bear witness to certain things that are going on. So I think that that's always the challenge for me, to say something that will resonate with you on a human level, that, maybe it's not just about what the obvious words are about, but it's about maybe something deeper, and it's about all of our humanity as well. Like I said, I want to read a poem that it's funny, I went to Cal State San Bernardino, I worked there, and I stumbled in to a poetry reading. And I just kept going back. They would have them regularly, and I kept going back. And I was fortunate to be around a group of students who were working on their master's degrees. And I was fortunate to be around some instructors who really cared about us as artists and us as people. And it was something that just really helped me in my writing. And I think that everybody who knew me at that point, they know I always tried to show up with something new. And students were fond of saying, oh, this is organic. It's like, yeah, this is like not fully bloomed yet. But the poem that I'm going to read you is something that I'm working on, a new volume of poems. And this is something that's from that volume of poems. Now, I told you I was going to read something that was dedicated to Gil Scott-Heron. And I first knew Gil Scott-Heron as a poet. And later on, I became aware of him as a musician. And he always had poems on his music tracks. And he always had a poem somewhere. And I was thinking at one point, where this poem came from, is that I was thinking, God, I wish he was around today to kind of translate all of the things that are going on politically, because he just had a way of talking about it. And so it was kind of like thinking about how much I missed him that inspired this poem. Now, one of the songs that he wrote was called Home is Where the Hatred Is. Gil Scott was really tragic insofar as that he became addicted to drugs, and essentially they killed him, but he was such a talent and such a loss. And so this is a poem called Home is Where the Hatred Is. And the song Home is Where the Hatred Is has a line that says, a junkie walking in the twilight, I'm on my way home. I left 3 days ago and no one seems to know I'm gone. Esther Phillips sings it best, but let there be no mistake, it's all about Gil's sorrow. Sisyphus reimagined, pushing that rock up Lenox Avenue towards 125th Street, while all of Harlem is cheering. Our new Langston, our new Baldwin, and Gil staggering under the weight of wringing his heart out to translate Miles and Mongo Santa Maria, Coltrane and Mingus, whose soulful cries have become improvised backbones or wishbones. Their gifts to us, afros and fist pumps, ace deuce pork pies, echoes of Cab and the Duke, whose zoot-suited anthems and hollers of hoy, hoy, were invitations to dim rooms where reefer smoke and work week's wages allowed us to stomp out our everyday mortifications, allowed us to grind against dark girls whose understanding could grind back just as desperate in the desire to forget, even if only for a moment, what it means to be Black and under attack in America, where suddenly now we're singing Marvin Gaye asking mother, mother, father, father, what's going on? What's going on? Because honestly, we can't seem to figure it out. Is it 1822 or 1922 or 2022? Because it feels like we are always under attack simply for being Black and in America, where some want our history to be lost, where some want our accomplishments to be tossed for fear their children might be made to feel distressed. But forgive me, I've digressed, because what I meant to say is that Gil's ghost is doomed to forever push that effing rock inch by inch, grinding a path up Lenox Avenue while it sings spirit music for lost souls, his ghostly voice rank with the dead tongues of Martin and Malcolm, Billy and Bird, proselytizing jazz as a gospel, on how words can become flesh and flesh become weak. And he was once a junkie walking in the twilight on Lenox Avenue towards 125th Street. And that's it. Like I said, when we talk about healing, we have so many people who are a victim of substance abuse and are taken or are, become, ill or just waste so much. And I think that that's something that we just really have to kind of support in ways that to make available, to be available, to understand that you can be very smart and still be victim of those type of things. Let me see. Are you back? Is that my time?
No, I'm, you have a couple more minutes and then we'll.
Okay, if I have a couple of more minutes, when you ask us to do a quote, and I told you, well, I'll find something. I want to read a poem by Roger Robinson, and it's from a book called Portable Paradise, A Portable Paradise. And he won the T.S. Eliot Award in the UK in 2019 for the publication of this book. And I'm going to read the title poem, A Portable Paradise. And if I speak of paradise, then I'm speaking of my grandmother, who told me to carry it always on my person, concealed, so no one else would know but me. That way they can't steal it, she'd say. And if life puts you under pressure, trace its ridges in your pocket, smell its piney scent on your handkerchief, hum its anthem under your breath. And if your stresses are sustained and daily, get yourself to an empty room, be it hotel, hostel, or hovel. Find a lamp and empty your paradise onto a desk. Your white sands, green hills, and fresh fish. Shine the lamp on it like the fresh hope of morning, and keep staring at it till you sleep.
Thank you, thank you. Beautiful. Oh my goodness. You guys are inspiring and uplifting and sharing the poetry of hope in so many ways. I want to encourage those that are listening. I really want to thank you for coming. And if you have any questions or comments, you can put it in the Q&A, and we'll be more than happy to discuss anything you have that you want us to talk about. Now, I guess it's my turn. And the quote that I have is by Bernice King, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter. She's fierce now. I've had the opportunity to hear her preach, and my son listens to her on podcast. And the quote is, "Being truthful about the state of our nation and world does not equal losing hope. Hope sees truth and still believes in better. That which dismisses or does not seek truth, but grins, saying, it'll be okay, is naivete, not hope." And so when we look at hope, we're looking at things straightforward, pretty or not pretty, in process or not. And I love that you talked about Gil Scott-Heron, because he was a brilliant genius, and yet he wrestled with a demon. And so, we have shadow and light in us all, from the personal to the communal to the national. So right now I have, and I'm not going to talk long, I have a poem that I don't think I've ever shared out loud except for when I wrote it. A lot of times on my bio, I will put that I'm a fellow of the Watering Hole in South Carolina. And the first time I went there, a young man that I'd never met was on the verge of dying. And I felt his spirit leave before they announced that he was gone. And I was in that circle. And it was something that I felt before, but not often in my life. And so I know that sounds kind of ooh. It's called First Night of a Writing Retreat. It's very short. Tongues etch his spirit in leather elegy, canopy our circle drum, room thick with hands molding his voice into a sacred dance. Santee waters gather in our tribe eye, where Sankofa dreams anoint our lips. His name a sage mist wrapping around our lungs. We exhale him into resurrection. And so I don't know the young man's name, but we breathe him and we breathe all of those that we love. And so I'm aware that we are always in transition. Every day we're in transition. And so the things that I focus on when I say healing from, well, I love that Blacklandia started, and a lot of things that had to do with our current awareness and change in school curriculum. They all came from the tragedy that we saw with George Floyd. But from that, it made the nation look at ourselves and knew that we had to do better. And we marched, and it was almost like a march to of repentance and a march saying we cannot stand still. We cannot stay where we are and be okay with that. And so when I thought about healing from, we need to heal from the shortcomings of, and I shouldn't even call them shortcomings, but we understand what I mean when I say the shortcomings of our society, our culture, the things that you spoke about, James, in your first poem. We need to heal from those things. And we're aware of that. And that was a part of our awareness. And as Lydia brought forth those names, those are names of change. And so I thank you, Lydia, for speaking those words of change. And and who was it that gave us the challenge? I think it was Lydia that gave us the challenge to research. And I think it was James that gave us the challenge to move forward. And when I look at George's poem about the hummingbird, and that hummingbird being symbolic of the many hummingbirds we have all known, and the cats that stand by, and we wonder how, and we have to look at that hummingbird and continue that cycle. That poem, I really want to thank you all for speaking life into the past and the right now of awareness and the challenges that we have. And I would like for us all now to have discussion about hopeful fours, the things that we would like to see happen. And if anybody wants to put, yes, that 18 names, I'm seeing all kinds of wonderful comments in the chat. From Powerful George, and Aruni has her hands up, and Jose Chavez. And I thank you all for the comments. Does anybody have any questions you want to add, especially for the Hopeful Four? Because I would love for us to, I call it Black Future Month, and I'm not the only one. As a matter of fact, that's N.K. Jemisin, whose book, Welcome to Black Future Month, got us thinking into the future. And you started off with the Octavia Butler quote, James, she's like the mother of Black futurism. And so this Black Future Month is not leaving us in the history, but bringing us current and pushing us forward. So I want to ask you all, we have about 10 minutes left. And so visions for the future, hopes for the future.
Yeah, I got two things. I think that I'm hopeful for, the power to imagine something different. And I feel like Black futurism is about that imagining what we could be. Because if we stay in what is, we're limited. And so to me, that's why the next generation is important. And why it's important that they understand that they have power in their voice, because they are going to help create that future. And so one way I can see that change happening now, and I'm hopeful for, is a Black female Supreme Court justice. So I'm looking forward to that, hopefully.
Yes, me too. I'm still giddy over Sonia Sotomayor, and so I'm looking forward to adding more. Let's see. I love this reading so much. Who do you read, watch, listen to, and who do you talk to? Who inspires you? So that was some of the other questions I see in the chat. I think we're getting things in the chat rather than the Q&A, and that's fine. That's beautiful.
Yeah. I have two things, like, to follow up on what James is saying. Something that I am really concerned with and, looking for, is for people to be active and to protect what rights we have. At like looking at Black History Month, and thinking that here we are again concerned with voting rights, and it was always an issue that voting rights were constantly coming up to be renewed, and it was always a thing to me. It's like, well, if it has to be renewed, that means that it can be taken away. And the one thing that we see, whether it be with George Floyd or like all of these different trials, is the one thing that people who will abuse you and hurt you fear is having to swear and take an oath and testify. And so it's just so important that we use the courts and that we use the tools that are at hand. And people just, like, you can't just take for granted that somehow it's all going to work out, because we have seen so much kind of like slide backwards right now. Yeah. It's just like, it feels like a tipping point. Yeah. And it's very concerning. And I get emails every day begging me for money, and yeah. I don't mind, but we do have people like Stacey Abrams, and we have to find who are going to be our champions and support them, whether it be answering phones, or whether it be knocking on doors, or just whether it's just talking to your family and saying, get out and do your civic duty to protect us. And I just think that that's very important right now. And yes. Yeah, that was it. It was just like, I just think that that is so important right now.
Thank you for that. Absolutely. Our civic duty that allows us to have the freedoms that we have so far. We have a ways to go, but we're backsliding, and we don't want that. And that's a rallying call, I think, for the African-American community, but for our country at large. We've seen a lot of things we thought we would never see. So thank you for that. Absolutely. Hopeful for more, this generation, the next generation, to get out there and take it seriously. It's a gift, and it's a gift that can be taken away. And it's a gift that was fought for. It wasn't just given to us. Yes. And so let's see, Lydia, do you have any hopeful for us?
I'm hopeful for the ability for young people and older people, Gen X and Ds and Ys and alphabet soup of people. I just have this hope that we start talking to each other and not texting anymore. And I hope that I hope the internet and the metaverse become a thing of the elite and the rebels. The rebels are the ones that are going to be going to the parks and playing chess and swinging on swings and having conversations. And the people that have got the masks on their face in the metaverse are going to miss out on all the great conversations that we're going to have, and all the great books that we're going to write and read, and plays that we're going to create. And all the authors that are out there that don't think they have a voice. Inlandia can hear you. Inlandia is looking for you. And just know that you are valuable. And I think that writers and artists and theater and music, the arts, I have hope because the arts did not die in 2020.
Thank you. That was, you couldn't have said that any more perfectly than what you said it. And so, my goodness, I'm rich, I'm full. Let's see, we have a little bit more time left. Does anybody have, one of the questions was, who do we listen to for inspiration? Who do we listen to or read for inspiration? Yes. Go ahead and say you're holding up the book, but just in case people didn't see, Ross Gay.
Ross Gay catalog for unabashed gratitude.
Yes.
It's really
Mhm.
it makes you think in a different way. At least for me, it does. It makes me really think about. It is important to write about gratitude and to write about that positive part of our existence. So Ross Gay is just like, he's like a steady go-to. He's just so uplifting.
So true. So true. Beautiful. And you have him right there. And James?
Yeah, I right now particularly appreciate Kendi X. Ibram, who wrote Stamped and How to Be Anti-Racist, and the work that he's doing at the center there. I think that there's a need for change, and as much as we can do, we need co-conspirators that are willing to share power and amplify voices in order to see that change occur.
Thank you, Jen. And I absolutely agree. When we saw the marches that lasted for months, one of the most powerful things was that it wasn't just people of color, and I shouldn't say just, but it was inclusive of so many people that were working to be anti-racist, that saw the inhumanity and the horror, the absolute horror of it, that they took and they walked and they walked and they walked. It was almost like a pilgrimage to our own Mecca of repentance and rebirth. And so absolutely, we need all of us together working. When you talked about your civic duty, absolutely, George, we need that. So Lydia, do you?
I'm right now, I'm doing a Dr. Courtney Bennett prayers and journaling. It is essentially how do you do your goals? You pray your goals, and so it's a guidebook and it's a journal book. My go-to is the Bible, of course, but there's it's alive. That's my thing. It's something that it can solve the mystery if you just if you just delve deep enough. And I'm looking forward to reading more Black authors this year. Let's see. There's this one book that's like a poem book. I don't have the book in front of me, but I'm reading it right now, and it's about this young man who got into a fight, and he wound up. It was like a school fight, and he wound up in prison. And it's like a book of poetry on each page, and it's like a graphic novel, a young adult book that I'm reading right now.
And those are really popular right now, and they're very potent. And we're coming up to the top of the hour, and I just want to, it's in the chat, and I want to bring it forth that the next Blacklandia event, Keenan Norris and the Confession of Copeland Kane in conversation with Eric Devon. That will be this coming Sunday, February 6th at 1:30 on Zoom. And Humanities Hour, Writing on Writing Place, Isabella Quintero and Cassandra Lopez will be Wednesday, February 16th. So there's always programming with Inlandia, and I want to bring that out. And then I want to close with just a huge thank you to James, to Lydia, to George, for your authenticity, for your humanity, and for sharing your hopefulness for our future. Thank you so much.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity.
Thank
Yep,
you,
thanks for having
Romaine.
us.
Thank you, Inlandia.
Yeah.
Thank you, Romaine. And
Oh,
Landry.
wait, there's
And-
something in the Q&A.
Well, thank everybody who tuned in too. We can't
Yeah,
see
it was a
you.
thank you.
Yeah, we can't see you, but thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Absolutely.
Good evening.
Good
Okay.
evening, guys. Did we just leave?
You know, I think we just lost Janine, but we're going to say
It looks
goodnight.
like we did. We're off though, right?
We're not officially off, so we're going to wave goodnight.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we are off.
Good night, y'all.
I see people leaving.
Yeah. All right. Have a good night. Thank you for being
Good
here.
night.
Thank you. Thank you, Romaine. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Janine. Good night, George. Good
Bye-bye.
night, James. Bye.
Okay.